Am I the curious? I am the curious. Am I the dumb one for not making a named piece of art for my future niece's nursery when my sister asked, even though I made one for my son? I, 27 years old, masculine, am about to become a father. My wife, Ellie, 26F, is pregnant, and our son is due in August. Ellie has always been very supportive of my art, something my family has never supported, including my sister Rebecca, 32-year-old feminine. Rebecca is expecting a baby girl in October. Ellie and I talked about me designing something decorative for our son's nursery, and when we chose to name and talked about wanting his name on the room, I thought of something that I could design and paint and that would fit well. It took me a few weeks to finish because it's big and detailed, but we loved it. Ellie thinks it's really cute because I made it for our son instead of us buying something. During our baby shower, we had a code baby shower, we showed off the baby's room and artwork to some friends and family. Rebecca was among them. She became extremely jealous and asked me why I never offered to make one for her daughter too. I mentioned the fact that Rebecca was always so unsupportive of my art. The fact that she always said it was a girl's hobby or a gay boy's hobby, and always supported our parents and other siblings to shit on my interest in drawing and paint. She then told me that she wanted me to do one and asked what she would need for me to do. I told her I wouldn't do it for her. She then decided to buy art supplies and order again anyway, and I still said no. I refused to take the art materials. She left them at my house, and I promptly dropped them back in hers. I told her that she was being very insistent about this and that I should consider how she treats me before asking for something so time-consuming to be done. She told me I could do this for my niece and accused me of caring more about boys than girls, of thinking girls weren't worth the effort. She basically made the greatest effort known to men and threw a bunch of sexism allegations my way. But she also said some pretty sexist things, like if I was going to take up a girly hobby, then at least I could let it benefit my family. I told her I didn't want that attitude around my son and I wanted her to stay away from me and my family. Then her husband contacted me, and we've always been nice, and he's less of an asshole than my sister. But he tried to convince me to do it and ask me not to be mean or cruel like my family has been to me, which made me realize that I don't want any of them near my son. Father? After the tense conversation, I felt there was a fine line that, once crossed, there would be no return. I worried about the impact this growing feud would have on Ellie and our son. Ellie, always patient and understanding, encouraged me to stay calm and think about what was best for our little family. I know Rebecca can be difficult, but try to remember that now you have the opportunity to build something new for our son. Let's focus on the positive and leave aside what is not good for us. Ellie's words, while comforting, didn't erase the resentment building inside me. Rebecca's insistence wasn't just a matter of pride or jealousy, it was a constant reminder of years of disdain and lack of support. I couldn't just forget about it, even if I wanted to. Days later, I received a text from Rebecca. Please think of my daughter. It's not her fault. All I want is something special for her, too. The message seemed sincere, but the weight of the previous words was still fresh in my mind. I talked to Ellie about it again. She suggested that I have one last heart-to-heart with Rebecca to clear up any feelings and try to find some common ground. Maybe she doesn't really understand how much this hurts you, Ellie said. Sometimes people need to hear it directly to understand. I reluctantly agreed and arranged to meet Rebecca at a cafe in town. When we sat down, she looked visibly uncomfortable, fidgeting with her wedding ring nervously. Rebecca, I wanted you to understand why this is so difficult for me. I began, trying to keep my voice calm. It's not just about the art or the time it takes to create something like this. It's about years of not feeling support from my own family, of being told my work has no value, and that hurts. Rebecca took a deep breath and looked at me, her eyes shining with a mix of regret and stubbornness. I know I wasn't the best sister, and maybe I never really understood how much it affected you. But I'm trying to change, and I think the art you make is amazing. I just want my daughter to have something special from you, too. There was a sincerity in her words that took me by surprise, but at the same time, a deep resentment that I couldn't just ignore. Then I said, Rebecca, it's not just about you changing now. It's about years of disrespectful comments and attitudes that don't go away overnight. She then nodded, and I noticed a tear running down her face. I'm really sorry. I just want my daughter to know that you're an important part of our family, that you have value. Maybe I'm being selfish, but that's how I feel. I left that conversation with mixed feelings. There was a part of me that wanted to believe in Rebecca's change, but another part that felt exhausted by the idea of always having to prove myself to my own family. The following months were an emotional roller coaster. Ellie and I focused on preparing for our son's arrival. The doctor's appointments, setting up the crib, choosing clothes. Everything seemed magical and scary at the same time. It was a new chapter in our lives, and I wanted everything to be perfect for Ellie and our baby. During this period, Rebecca tried to get closer again, sending sporadic messages and even a gift for the baby. However, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was an unresolved tension hanging over us. The birth of our son in August was one of the most exciting moments of my life. Seeing Ellie holding our son for the first time with tears of joy in her eyes made everything else seem insignificant. "Welcome to the world, little one," I whispered as I stroked to his head. "You're so loved." We decided to name our son Noah. The name seemed perfect, full of hope and new possibilities. The art I had created for this nursery now felt even more meaningful, a symbol of love and dedication. Rebecca showed up at the hospital to meet Noah. She brought a gift, a baby outfit with a cute dinosaur design. "He's beautiful," she said, holding Noah carefully. "Congratulations, little brother." There was a tenderness in her eyes that touched me, but there was still an invisible barrier between us. I didn't know if we would ever be able to completely move on from the past, but in that moment I decided I would do my best to focus on the future. In the months that followed, my relationship with Rebecca remained strained. She often asked about Noah and sent gifts, but there was an emotional distance that seemed impossible to overcome. I focused on my little family, on being the best father and husband I could be. Ellie has been a rock this entire time. Her unwavering support and love for Noah and me gave me the strength to face any adversity. "You're doing an amazing job," she would tell me whenever I doubted myself. "Noah is so lucky to have you as a father." However, the situation with Rebecca escalated again when she had her daughter, Emma, in October. She asked me again to make art for Emma's room, insisting that it would be a way of showing that I had forgiven her and that I wanted to be part of her life. This constant nagging started to get to me more than I wanted to admit. Ellie, sensing my stress, suggested that perhaps I should consider making the art as a gesture of peace, but I was still reluctant. "It's not just about making the art, Ellie. It's about everything it represents," I explained. She never supported me before. Why should I do this now? Ellie looked at me with compassion. "Because sometimes taking the first step is the only way to start healing old wounds. And who knows? Maybe it will help build a bridge to the better future." The decision of whether or not to do the art for Emma weighed on me. I knew it could be an opportunity for reconciliation, but I also feared that my action would be seen as a tacit acceptance of everything that had gone before. After much reflection, I decided that for the sake of my own peace and that of my family, I would try to take this first step. I started working on the art for Emma's room, putting the same love and dedication that I put into the art of Noah. Each stroke was a mixture of emotions, a little resentment, but also hope that this could open a path to healing. When I finished, I was proud of the result. It was a peaceful scene of a field of flowers with the name Emma in delicate letters. Ellie hugged me when I showed it to her, her eyes shining with pride. "It's beautiful. I'm sure Rebecca and Emma will love it." I delivered the art to Rebecca personally. She seemed genuinely moved to see her. "Thank you, really, it means a lot to me," she said, with tears in her eyes. I hoped this gesture could actually start a change, but to my disappointment, the tension between us didn't ease as much as I'd hoped. Rebecca still seemed resentful, perhaps because it had taken so long for me to give in, or perhaps for reasons she herself didn't fully understand. Time passed and Noah grew quickly, bringing joy and laughter to our home. Every moment with him was precious and made the problem with my family seem less important. Ellie and I focused on creating a loving and safe environment for Noah. trying to protect them from family tensions. Rebecca and I continued to speak sporadically, but it was never the same. She always tried to be more involved, but there was this wall that seemed insurmountable. I wonder if we ever be able to truly resolve our differences. One day, I received an unexpected call from Rebecca. I need your help, she said, her voice shaking. Emma is sick and I don't know what to do. My first reaction was concern. What happened? Is she okay? I asked, feeling a wave of panic. She has a high fever and the doctors can't figure out what it is, Rebecca replied, her voice full of despair. Please, I need you here. I immediately went to the hospital where Emma was admitted. Seeing my niece so fragile and defenseless made me realize how insignificant our fights were compared to our child's life. Rebecca was heartbroken, and for the first time, I saw a vulnerability in her that I never seen before. I spent the next few days in the hospital alongside Rebecca and Emma, trying to offer whatever support I could. During this time, Rebecca and I had many conversations, some about the past, some about the future. Little by little, I realized the pain she carried was as deep as mine. I'm sorry for everything, Rebecca said one night as we sat in the waiting room. I never realized how much I hurt you. And now, seeing Emma like this, I understand how important family is. I placed my hand on her shoulder, trying to offer some comfort. I'm sorry too. Maybe we were both wrong at many times, but we're here now, and that's what matters. Emma's health began to improve, and finally, after weeks of uncertainty, she was diagnosed with a treatable infection. When she finally returned home, there was a sense of relief and gratitude in the air. This experience brought Rebecca and I closer. The wounds of the past have not completely disappeared, but we have begun to rebuild our relationship step by step. She started to really support my art, and I started to see in her a sister who was really trying to change. Life moved on. Noah was growing strong and healthy, and Emma was also recovering well. Ellie and I continued to focus on our family, but now with renewed hope that things with Rebecca could actually get better. One day, as I painted a new piece, Noah beside me doodling on a piece of paper, I thought about how complicated and full of challenges life can be. But I also realized that despite everything, there was beauty in struggle and reconciliation. Rebecca and I still had a long way to go, but we were willing to try. And that, in itself, was already a big step. After all, family is like that, full of ups and downs, hurts and forgiveness, but always with the hope of a better tomorrow. But I tried. The months that followed were marked by a more friendly relationship between Rebecca and me. Tensions eased, and she seemed to be genuinely trying to change. She began to support me more openly, asking about my works and even showing interest in learning a little about art. During this time, Ellie and I were busy with Noah, who was growing rapidly. Each new milestone, your first smile, your first steps, was celebrated with joy and gratitude. Art continued to be an outlet of my feelings, and seeing Noah interested in my drawings filled me with pride. Rebecca often came to visit us with Emma, and seeing our children playing together was a source of joy for all of us. Ellie and I believed that the family was finally finding balance and a path to reconciliation. However, this peace was disturbed at the family dinner months later. We were all gathered at our parents' house, and I had brought some of my new works to show, at the request of my mother, who wanted to hang them in the living room. While everyone was praising the paintings, Rebecca made a comment that brought back old resentments. I still think it's amazing how you wasted so much time on this hobby. I wish you'd used that talent for something more masculine, you know? Something that actually brought in money. The silence that followed was heavy. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my reaction. I felt a mixture of anger and disappointment. After everything we've been through, that comment felt like betrayal. Rebecca, I thought we were over this. I began, trying to remain calm. My art is a part of who I am, and I will not tolerate you disrespecting that, especially in front of my son. She tried to defend herself. I'm not saying it's not good. I just think it could be more useful another way, something that could actually support your family. Ellie intervened, her voice firm but calm. James's art brings more than money. It brings joy. It brings meaning. And honestly, it's one of the things we love most about him. Rebecca looked at Ellie, surprised by the intensity of her response. I just want what's best for him, Rebecca murmured, but her voice sounded more defensive than the sincere. I know you think so, I replied, feeling my patience running thin. But the best thing for me is to be true to myself and my passion. And if you can't respect that, then maybe we should keep our distance. There was a tense silence. Everyone present seemed unsure of what to do or what to say. Finally, my father spoke up. Rebecca, we all have our paths. You need to understand and respect James. Rebecca lowered her head, and for the first time seemed to actually consider her words. I'm sorry, she said, almost inaudibly. I'm really sorry. Even with her apology, I knew I needed to be firm. Rebecca, I forgive you, but I need you to understand that these types of comments are not acceptable, especially now that I'm a father. I need to set an example for Noah. I don't want him to grow up being told that art has no value. She nodded, and a tear ran down her face. I'll try to be better, I promise. The night continued, but the atmosphere was different this time. Although the moment was difficult, it was also a turning point. I felt like I was finally standing up for not only myself, but also Noah's future. He needed to grow up knowing that his passions, whatever they may be, have value and deserve respect. In the following days, Rebecca remained more reserved, but also more respectful. She began asking more genuine questions about my work without the judgmental tone she had previously carried. It was a slow process, but every little gesture of support from her felt like a step in the right direction. For Ellie and I, the priority remained our family. We watched Noah grow up in an environment where creativity was encouraged, and it brought us immense joy. Ellie continued to be my rock, always reminding me of what really mattered. Despite the ups and downs, the journey with Rebecca taught me that some changes take time and that it's important to set clear boundaries. Fatherhood has brought up new perspective and new strength to stand up for what was right. Not just for myself, but for my family as well. Life went on, and although there were still challenges, there was also growth and learning. I knew that no matter what happened, we were on the right path, building a life on respect, love, and authenticity. And so, with each day, we found ways to be better, to support each other, and to ensure Noah grew up in a world where his passions were valued and respected. After all, this is the true essence of family. And we've reached the end of the stories today. So, what did you think of the whole story? If you made it this far, don't forget to support the Curious One by clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Until the next story, goodbye! I enjoyed meeting people. After I broke up with my girlfriend, I continued my single life. Just meeting girls and clubs and everything, but I always drank and felt empty. Until the moment a friend started talking to me and said it would be interesting for me to download these dating apps to meet a girl. At first I found it interesting. Days passed and I ended up meeting a beautiful blonde with green eyes on the app. We talked very well and exchanged experiences until the day we scheduled a meeting. I was happy and spoke to my friend, and my friend asked me to see the girl's photo. He told me to be careful. I even got angry with him, saying that, "Do you think I don't have the ability to get a girl like that?" He responded seriously, saying that it wasn't that I should be careful. It was at that moment that I heard his words and called my crush until then, and made an appointment with her to meet me near the restaurant and said that I would drive by the meeting. She told me okay. However, thinking about my friend's words, I stopped 5 streets before the restaurant and walked cautiously. A block before the restaurant, I could see my crush, but I saw that she was next to other guys. She was not alone. 3 men accompanied her, and I could hear one of them whispering, "Looks like the idiot isn't going to come." Panic gripped me when I saw that one of them was holding a gun. The penny dropped. It was a trap. I kept a safe distance, observing the interaction. The dealer, a tall, burly man, looked irritated. He gestured with the gun while talking to my crush. "So, where's this idiot?" he growled. "He said he was coming," she replied, trying to remain calm. "You better show up soon, or there will be problems for you too," threatened the drug dealer. My mind was racing. I knew I needed to get out of there immediately, but any sudden movement would attract their attention. I began to back away slowly, trying to not make any noise. Suddenly, one of the men looked at my direction. Our eyes met, and adrenaline took over. "It's him!" shouted the man. Without thinking twice, I turned and started running. I heard their footsteps behind me, getting closer and closer. Fear gave me the strength I didn't even know I had. I ran like never before, feeling my heart almost come out of my mouth. I turned corners, crossed streets without looking around until I finally saw my car. The men were still behind me, but the distance had increased. With shaking hand, I managed to unlock the car and jump inside. I started the engine and accelerated with all my might, hearing the screams and curses of my pursuers getting lost in the distance. I managed to lose them, but I didn't stop until I was far away. When I finally stopped the car, I was panting in a cold sweat. I looked at the steering wheel, still in disbelief at what had just happened. My friend's words saved my life. That moment, that experience, was a brutal awakening to the dangers of the virtual world. I've since decided that casual dating via apps wasn't for me. The emptiness I felt might need to be filled in another way, but I certainly wouldn't risk my life again. The night changed my perspective on many things. I learned to trust intuition and advice from friends more, and most importantly, I realized that the search for true connections should not just put my safety at risk. The adrenaline was still running through my body as I parked the car in front of the police station. My heart was racing, but I knew I needed to do this. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm my nerves, and entered the building. The environment was austere, with white walls and people coming and going. I went to the service desk and explained what had happened. The attendant, a middle-aged woman with a stern expression, directed me to a room where I could file the police report. As I waited, my mind relived the events of that night. The sight of the men with the gun, the sound of the pursuers' footsteps, the desperate run to my car. It all felt like a nightmare I had just woken up from. Finally, I was called by a police officer. I reported all the details, the conversations with the girl in the app, the scheduled meeting, my friend's suspicion, the ambush, and the escape. The police officer wrote down everything meticulously, asking specific questions to clarify the facts. "Did you see any of the men's faces?" he asked. "Yes, I saw them all. I can describe them," I replied, trying to remember every detail. After about an hour, the police report was registered. I left the police station with a mixture of relief and concern. Relief for having taken the right action and concern about the possible consequences. Would the criminals try to find me again? Would I be safe? That night, when I got home, I made a firm decision. I would never use dating apps again. The experience had been too traumatic to even consider the idea again. I blocked all the apps on my phone and deleted my accounts. I prefer solitude to taking that risk again. The next day, I decided to find my friend to thank him. He was in the same bar where we used to meet. As soon as I entered, he looked up and smiled, but his expression changed when he saw my condition. "What happened, man?" he asked, worried. I sat down next to him, still feeling that weight of the night before. "You won't believe what happened," I began. "Remember the blonde with green eyes I met on the app? The one I set up a date with?" "Yeah, I remember. And then, how was it?" he asked, already looking suspicious. "It was a trap, man. When I got close to the restaurant, I saw that she was with other guys. One of them had a gun. They were planning to catch me." "Dude, I told you to be careful," he said with a tone of seriousness and concern. "I know, and I heard your words. If it weren't for you, maybe I would have fallen into the trap. Thanks for the advice, man." I stopped the car early and walked. I managed to see it in time and ran away. "Thank you." He placed his hand on my shoulder, a gesture of support and relief. "I'm glad you listened, brother. This could have ended very badly." "You have no idea. After escaping, I went straight to the police station and filed a police report. But it made me realize that it's not worth risking my life like that. I deleted all the applications. I'm not going to use those things anymore. I declared, feeling the determination in my voice. He nodded, agreeing with my decision. I think you made the right decision, man. These apps may seem like a good idea, but you never know who is on the other side. It's better to meet people in the safer way, he advised. We spent the night talking about what happened, reflecting on the pitfalls and dangers that can lurk in online datings. The experience taught me a lot about the importance of caution and the value of friendship. My friends, with his advice and genuine concern, had saved me from a potentially deadly situation. That meeting at the bar sealed our friendship in a new way. I realized that more than ever I needed to value those who truly care for me. And despite everything, there was something positive about the experience. I learned to be more careful, to listen to the advice of those who love me, and above all, to trust my intuition. Life went on, but I never took risks in the same way again. The emptiness I felt might need to be filled in another way, but I was sure it wouldn't be through risky encounters with strangers again. I learned my lesson the hard way, but the important thing is that I survived to tell the tale. And with the support of the right friends, I knew I could face anything.